Imagine pressing play. The first note enters your ear, travels through your auditory canal, and strikes the eardrum with precision. This simple act, repeated for 2 hours daily, sets something in motion that most people never witness. Your brain, which has been operating on autopilot, suddenly receives a signal it recognizes from deep evolutionary memory. Sound with structure, pattern with meaning. And now, without your conscious awareness, a transformation begins. For years, we've been told that music is entertainment, distraction, background noise to fill silence. But what if that understanding misses something fundamental? What if your brain possesses a capability that modern neuroscience is only beginning to fully comprehend? The human nervous system wasn't designed for silence, but for rhythm, melody, and the complex patterns that bind communities together. What if, hidden within your neural architecture, lies an ancient mechanism for growth, waiting to be activated through sound? When you listen to music for 2 hours daily, you're not just enjoying sound. You're initiating a biological cascade that reaches into every neural network, every synapse, every corner of your cognitive architecture. So, what actually happens when your brain realizes the pattern has arrived? What hidden processes begin in those first crucial minutes? The answers are both remarkable and humbling, and they start before the first song ends. Within the first 3 minutes of listening, your conscious mind registers pleasure, focus, maybe a shift in mood. This is the surface experience, the part you notice. But beneath this awareness, something extraordinary is occurring. Your auditory cortex lights up, processing the incoming sound waves with astonishing precision. Simultaneously, the nucleus accumbens, deep in your brain's reward center, floods with dopamine. This isn't random. This is ancient circuitry recognizing what it needs. Multiple brain regions that normally operate independently begin to synchronize. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for complex thought, starts communicating with your motor cortex, which controls movement. Your limbic system, the emotional core, connects with your memory centers. It's as though separate departments of a company suddenly discovered they can work together seamlessly. This synchronization happens because music carries information your brain desperately wants: pattern, structure, predictability with surprise. Your neural networks evolved to detect these qualities because they signal safety, community, and shared understanding. The dopamine release isn't pleasure for its own sake. It's your brain rewarding itself for successfully processing complex, meaningful sound. 3 minutes in, and your brain isn't passively receiving. It's actively transforming, network by network. By the end of the first week, something becomes measurable. Your thinking feels different, though you might struggle to name exactly how. Memory seems sharper. Attention sustains longer. Tasks that required intense focus now feel strangely effortless. This isn't imagination. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, awakening in response to consistent stimulation. At the cellular level, your neurons are growing. Specifically, dendritic spines, the tiny protrusions where neurons connect to each other, begin multiplying along neural pathways that music repeatedly activates. Synaptic connections strengthen. Information that once traveled across weak bridges now flows across reinforced highways. Research documents measurable increases in synaptic density within just 7 days of consistent musical engagement. This happens because your brain operates on a simple principle: what fires together, wires together. Every time you listen, the same networks activate in sequence. Auditory processing connects to emotional response, connects to motor rhythm, connects to memory storage. Your brain recognizes the pattern and decides this pathway is worth reinforcing. It's not just responding to music, it's rebuilding itself to process music more efficiently. 1 week, and the architecture has already begun to change. Around day 14, something shifts in how you handle pressure. A situation that would have triggered immediate stress response instead feels manageable. Anxiety that once built rapidly now rises more slowly, peaks lower, dissipates faster. Your emotional reactions feel more measured, more under your control. This change isn't willpower, it's biochemistry. Beneath the surface, your cortisol levels are being regulated. Cortisol, the stress hormone that floods your system during perceived threats, remains more stable throughout your day. Your amygdala, the ancient alarm system deep in your brain's core, shows dampened activity in the presence of stressors. It's not that stress disappears, It's that your brain's response to stress recalibrates. Music activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest counterbalance to fight or flight. 2 hours daily, and this system strengthens its influence. Think of music as emotional rehearsal. Each time you listen, your brain practices regulating arousal, dampening excessive reactions, returning to baseline. The neural circuits responsible for emotional control become more efficient through repetition. Your brain's alarm system isn't broken, it's learning when not to scream. By week 3, recall becomes effortless in unexpected moments. A name you forgot surfaces naturally. Information you studied clicks into place. Memories from years past emerge with startling clarity and detail. This isn't coincidence. This is your hippocampus, the brain's memory center, fundamentally altering its function. Beneath the surface, something astonishing is occurring. Your hippocampus is producing new neurons through a process called neurogenesis. For decades, scientists believed adult brains couldn't grow new cells. That belief was wrong. Music triggers the release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which functions like fertilizer for neural growth. New cells form. Existing neurons develop more connections. The physical structure of your memory center expands. Research shows 15 to 20% increases in hippocampal volume after consistent musical engagement. This isn't metaphorical growth. This is measurable physical expansion. Your hippocampus also enhances memory consolidation during sleep, processing and storing information more efficiently because of its increased capacity. The memories feel more vivid because the biological machinery creating them has improved. Your brain isn't just storing information better, it's growing new cells, building new memory capacity from sound waves. Around week 8, you notice coordination feels effortless. Your hands seem to know where to reach before you think about it. Multitasking, which once fractured your attention, now flows smoothly. Thoughts connect faster. Ideas emerge from seemingly unrelated concepts. This enhanced integration comes from changes happening deep within your brain's communication infrastructure. Your white matter, the brain's wiring system composed of bundled neural pathways, shows increased integrity. Myelin, the fatty insulation that wraps around these pathways, is being produced at accelerated rates. More myelin means faster signal transmission. Information that once traveled at modest speeds now races between brain regions. Your corpus callosum, the massive bundle of fibers connecting left and right hemispheres, physically strengthens. Studies using diffusion tensor imaging reveal that musical engagement increases white matter density in multiple regions simultaneously. Your auditory processing centers need to communicate with motor areas, emotional centers, and memory systems in real time. This demand for rapid, reliable communication forces your brain to upgrade its infrastructure. The result is measurable. Neural signals transmit faster, more reliably, with less signal loss. Your brain isn't just stronger, it's faster, more integrated, more whole. 3 months in, something extraordinary happens in how you read people. A colleague's tone carries information you would have missed before. A friend's facial expression reveals emotion they're trying to conceal. Empathy, which once required conscious effort, now emerges naturally, almost automatically. This shift in emotional intelligence has a biological basis. Your mirror neurons, specialized cells that activate both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing it, become dramatically more responsive. These neurons form the foundation of empathy, allowing you to literally feel what others experience. Musical engagement trains these systems relentlessly. Every emotional nuance in music, every subtle shift in tone and dynamics, teaches your brain to detect and interpret emotional information. Your prefrontal cortex, which regulates emotional responses, develops stronger connectivity with your limbic system, where emotions originate. Your superior temporal sulcus, critical for processing social cues, shows enhanced activity. Music is fundamentally social information, evolved to communicate emotion before language existed. 2 hours daily, and your brain refines its ability to decode these signals. The training transfers. You become better at reading voices, faces, and the tiny behavioral cues that reveal internal states. Your brain has learned to listen not just to music, but to humanity. By month 4, language feels richer. Words arrive more quickly, sentences flow more smoothly, vocabulary expands without conscious effort. You notice patterns everywhere, in data, in conversation, in the way events unfold. This isn't random observation sharpening. This is your brain's pattern recognition systems operating at a fundamentally higher level. Broca's area, responsible for speech production, and Wernicke's area, which handles language comprehension, show enhanced connectivity with each other and with other brain regions. Your auditory cortex, refined by months of processing complex sound, can now detect finer distinctions in speech, tone, and meaning. Music is structured pattern recognition training. Rhythm is pattern. Melody is pattern. Harmony is multiple patterns layered simultaneously. Your brain's predictive processing networks strengthen dramatically. These systems constantly try to anticipate what comes next, based on patterns they've detected. Music trains this capability relentlessly, because musical structure creates expectations that are sometimes met, sometimes violated in surprising ways. This training transfers to language, problem-solving, and decision-making. Your brain has become a prediction machine, trained by rhythm and melody to detect structure in complexity. Around month 6, something reveals itself that few people understand until they experience it. Mental clarity doesn't just deepen, it feels protected, insulated against decline, sharper than it was years ago. This isn't subjective impression. This is your brain building what neuroscientists call cognitive reserve, a buffer against aging and neurological damage. Measurable increases in gray matter volume appear in specific regions: the auditory cortex, the motor cortex, the inferior frontal gyrus. These aren't temporary changes. This is structural growth, visible on MRI scans, representing millions of new connections and enhanced neural density. Your brain is constructing its own defense system against future damage. Research shows that lifelong musical engagement correlates with 50% less cognitive decline in aging populations. The mechanism is elegant. A brain with more connections, more redundant pathways, and more robust networks can withstand damage that would devastate a less developed brain. If some neurons die, others compensate. If one pathway falters, alternatives exist. This capability was encoded in your biology millions of years ago, when our ancestors survived through sound, through rhythm that coordinated group action, through melody that communicated emotion across distance. Not because you've earned protection, but because your brain was designed to fortify itself through sound. 6 months and beyond, you realize you don't think the same way anymore. Information processes differently. Problems that once seemed insurmountable reveal their structure more clearly. Creativity flows naturally because your brain has built pathways between regions that rarely communicated before. You notice details others miss, not because you're trying harder, but because your perceptual systems have been fundamentally upgraded. Brain scans reveal the truth. Your neural architecture is organized differently than it was. The changes aren't temporary adaptations. They're permanent structural modifications. The pathways built through 6 months of consistent engagement are now highways, not trails. Your auditory, motor, emotional, cognitive integration has been restructured at the most fundamental level. What you offered seems so small, 2 hours daily of organized sound. But your brain understood what was happening. It recognized the ancient signal, the pattern it evolved to process, the stimulus that triggers growth and fortification. And it responded the way biology responds to consistent, meaningful input. It built something that will last. It built something eternal.